probably 2.5-hour read, very dense. So much of it was so outlined. And I read it and I, devoured it. It was like reading a fantastic science fiction novel. It was great.
It's not come from some comic book. It's a completely original sci-fi idea that's been put down. I don't think there's very many of those being made anymore.
I think that made us all very excited because the script is rich and it's complex, and you're not going to get it the first time you read it, but that's the mark of a piece of quality work. They don't do things that are formats, they don't do things that have done before. In fact, they try to avoid things that have been done before.
This is a fantastic invention. I mean, the characters that you see standing around on the set are absolutely extraordinary. I think the world that they've created is completely original. You couldn't do it on stage. It would be lost on television. It's pure, pure cinema.
Maximilian obviously knows his stuff and has that obsessive streak in him. He is absolutely obsessed with our solar system and beyond and what is out there.
Is there life on another planet? It's like, am I alone? These are like religious ideas. But for the non-religious, the idea of who am I and where do I fit in the universe can be applied in a similar way. Are we alone?
He refers to the sky as being full of miracles.
It's kind of interesting as it's all about stars and planets and fate and things like that. It would seem like a little sort of miraculous sci-fi.
We did a scene the other day with some landing craft coming, and the whole thing, when you see CGI'd in, I mean, it's going to look like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. I feel as though they're extending the barriers of the medium.
It's a world that's created in two amazing directors' minds that they've created and made to a reality. It's kind of world of the gods, that's what I'd kind of see. When you walk on set and you just see all these colourful and amazing characters that have just built from someone's imagination, and you're like, God, this world is, I want to be part of it. I want to be here for every single one. It's like, you wonder where they come from, and they're so detailed with their kind of, the way they want things to be and way things should look, that I'm just stunned.
Yep. I loved The Never-Ending Story when I was a little kid. The concept of Fantasia in that movie, Never-Ending Story, is that Fantasia is built upon the hopes and dreams of children, so there is no boundary, you can't reach the edge of it. And I often think of that when I'm around Andy and Lana and I read their scripts or see their movies.
Start in present day, real world Chicago. So there's a real grounding and familiarity there. But then we go off-world to a number of different worlds, in fact, that we're imagining and conceiving. And each one of them is got elements of our own architectural, costume, art and design incorporated in them, and even mythology. It works as a viewer because you're familiar with it, but it also is suggesting that that is actually where the origins of especially our mythology and lore come from, and even some of our inspirations for architecture, art and design have actually come from these places off-world. We've somehow had some connection that we don't know how.
According to Commonwealth records, this planet was seeded by brass axe industries roughly 100,000 years ago. Human DNA spliced with indigenous species to evolve a fertile population. Andy and Lana, I mean, they've got a vision which is, a very original and kind of, as I said, kind of groundbreaking vision. It's deep, it's profound, it's got original ideas, it's got a surreal quality which I find fascinating and so challenging to work on. And that's what they're doing. I think that's very brave of them. It's using your imagination and kind of jumping into something you don't know, really. Just giving it a try, because if you don't, then it's just going to be normal, it's going to be boring.
There are several different planets and worlds that Jupiter visits when she's escorted from Earth. The idea is when we first got to the read-through, there was all these collages of what the worlds might look like, and it was just, everyone was blown away. We were just mouths to the floor. Where we're filming today, this is kind of an example of where she might hang out, what might be in her palace. whereas some of the other worlds are slightly more teched out or driven towards technology.
Because we each have our own ships and our own agendas.
I had planned to take you myself, but the Aegis will undoubtedly insist they handle things from here.
Jupiter can inherit whatever planet that she is born on. She can only inherit that if she makes it to the Hall of Titles. And the Hall of Titles is on Oros, which is essentially the very first Earth. It's the very first one that has industrialized certain things.
I don't know what goes on in their heads, but it's kind of an amazing world.
Even when I was seeing all the concept art, like you see Belem and his ship's dark, and all his sort of servants are sort of ugly-looking aliens, and it's all very stern.
Not my brother or my sister.
The Wachowskis have created this world in which, in space, you have these great dynasties of families who all have different trades and wealth.
They're part of this royal family that own these planets.
The Abrasax one is harvesting these planets and using distilled serum of the bodies from these planets to create a sort of rejuvenating serum.
Within the universe and the cosmos, people want to live longer. They want to, dying's, they don't want to do that anymore. So they're sort of supplying this business, but to do this, they have to harvest whole planets at a time. And Earth is soon coming into line to be harvested, but Belem owns the Earth. It's going to be big for him within the market.
Belem has many of these all across the universe, many of these different plants or refineries. Chicanery runs one of these kind of plants where they take human beings and make them into whatever this essence is that keeps Belem youthful. So he just runs the day-to-day running of one of these refineries. That's his job. And it just so happens in this particular story, Belem is visiting this particular refinery at this point, which is Earth's refinery.
Belem's obsession is profit, and the idea that through evolution and profiting in a sort of Darwinian sense, or profiting financially, is the only way to move forward in the world. It's an incredibly cold, cruel, mercenary look on the world versus Jupiter's one of love and learning to love.
Life is an act of consumption, Jupiter.
Because science fiction was a way to infuse political ideas because it was disguised as this crazy genre. Old science fiction is rife with this type of insurgency, political insurgency. What a great milieu to be able to talk about ideas. Relevant ideas, like, the ideas of class and, of course, spiritual ideas like reincarnation. It's a very profound idea. And when you imagine the vastness of space, the exploration of it.
What Lana and Andy do so well is that they take this, I suppose, populist genre and manage to feed in elements of real meaning and their take on the world.
They're kind of geeky about it, but that's exactly how you would want somebody to be if you're making a sci-fi film.
To them, it's every day. It's sort of pedestrian. Lana will be saying next to you, and she'll have the term for whatever it is. You'll be like, do these really exist? Is this a real thing, or is this just in your head? She'll just look at you and go, yeah.
It's a sci-fi, and I think it's something they do really well. I think they have a real passion for it, and I think that's so important.
There's a satisfaction in perfecting your art. They're absolutely driven by that. And, there's risk with that. But that risk is exciting and very satisfying.
Tonight the sky is completely full of miracles.